Hi, I'm Bob Henderson. I'm the Nomad Dad, father of the Nomad Capitalist, Andrew Henderson. And, you know, Andrew talks about being to over 100 countries. He's been boots on the ground. He's got various associates there in a variety of countries, some of whom I've met. Delightful people. They're attorneys, they're real estate people, they're accountants. They're there to help you in conjunction with Andrew and his staff of 36 or so people scattered throughout several different countries. One of the things when I sold my business about 6 years ago, Andrew's mother and I decided we would start traveling a little more around the world. And my thought was, 2015, this is 25 years since the fall of the Berlin Wall in Germany and communism. 25 years, that's a generation. How about, among other places, we start going to some formerly communist countries in Eastern Europe and just get a sense of how things are going. So the first country we went to was Poland. It's an EU country. People are lovely people. I love Warszawa. That's Warsaw. But I love the way they pronounce their city's name, Warszawa. A beautiful old town. But you can see a lot of vestiges of communism. They're very family-oriented. It is a nice place to go for a while. I feel for those people because they have been tossed around throughout the centuries, their land taken away and changed around and whatnot. But it's certainly a place that I would want to recommend to you, and perhaps I'd go back again. We also went to the Czech Republic, and Prague is a beautiful city. I would say, in my view, that Prague is significantly more advanced than Warsaw. They tried to overthrow the Soviets in 1968, and they finally did in the early 90s. I think they've made more progress. They're more of a market-oriented economy. But if you talk to the people, you're still going to hear complaints about not enough social spending. It is so hard to get rid of central planning, call it socialism, communism. It is so hard to get rid of that. It takes generations. But they're moving a little bit more in the correct direction. Some beautiful sights, wonderful people. I'd highly recommend going to Prague. My favorite place is Hungary and Budapest. Beautiful city on the Danube River. There are two sides of town. There's Buda on the left-hand side of the river. The Castle District is there. It's more suburban. In parts rather upscale. And then there's Pest, P-E-S-T, in Hungarian the S makes the S-H sound, the C makes the S sound, so Pest. This is where you have a lot of the tourist activities. There are a multitude of bridges that are beautiful that I would walk across daily, across the Danube from the Pest to the Buda side and back. Several of those bridges were blown up by the Germans in World War II and were rebuilt. A lot of history there. I would highly recommend going to the Váci district, which is the fashion district, the Castle district for sure. They have some wonderful parks. It is my favorite Eastern European city, and I think I might even have it as one of my favorite European cities as well. And I would say that in the grand scheme of things, they are doing better than most of the other Eastern European countries. Other Eastern European countries that we've been to, Serbia. In fact, one time flew into Budapest, spent a few days there, and then down to Belgrade, which is not quite at the level of Budapest. It's also on the Danube River. We spent a few days there, and then we went down to the next country, Bulgaria. I'm not enamored with the capital of Sofia, but I did go to a place that I'd read about, which apparently has a lot of digital nomads, and it's a town of about 500,000 people called Plovdiv. And I was there in 2018, and they had signs everywhere that it was going to be the European cultural capital of 2019. And I'm glad they got that in before the pandemic. It's a beautiful city, 7 hills surround it. I climbed several of them in the fall. It was just absolutely gorgeous. The people were very nice. You can buy things in many ways so inexpensively. It is a very poor country. I did ride the train from Sofia to Plovdiv, the old Soviet era train. They need to put some more money into those kinds of things. So Hungary, Serbia, Bulgaria, I think all of them are making some progress in the post-Soviet era. Keep in mind that the Soviet Union, Russia went from 1917 to 1989. That's 3 generations, 75 years. The Warsaw Pact countries after World War II went from 1945 to 1990. That's almost 2 generations. And as I mentioned a few moments ago, it is so hard to recover from that economically and culturally. It takes generations. That's to get to where they're going. But they are heading in the right direction. The other country that we went, very tiny little place near Serbia, is Montenegro. You've got to go to Kotor Bay. If you want to be on the beach, you need to go to Budva. That's kind of a party place, but Kotor, the fjords, it is breathtakingly beautiful, and that's where the cruise ships come in. Montenegro, I think lots of wealthy people have yachts there. Porto Montenegro at Tivat, where there is an airport, with flights in from Brussels several times a week. I'm not so sure that they've made the same amount of progress as some of those other countries, but there are some absolutely lovely views. I think you'd want to spend some time there. We did not get to Croatia. I hear good things about it. You may want to spend some time there. Remember, this is all part of the old Yugoslavia, which was broken up into 6 or 7 different countries. Serbia is part of it, Montenegro, Croatia, Albania, Bosnia, Herzegovina, all these places. And they, it's not a backwater, but I just don't think it's, say, at the level of Hungary. It's probably more of a place to go for a little time in the summer. You find people coming to the beach there from all over because it's so lovely. And that's what I have to say about Montenegro. They're trying to create more ties with the EU and NATO, for better or worse, trying to become more Western. But I still think there are some elements, perhaps, where they still have some work to do. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Eastern Europe, and I'm going to mention one more place, which is neither European nor Asian. It's kind of where Europe meets Asia. And Andrew's talked to you about this for years, and it's the Republic of Georgia. I've never been any place that was so hard to describe in terms of the character. It's not European, it's not Asian, it's a mixture of the two. It's an ancient city, some beautiful places. And that's Tbilisi, Georgia, the capital. I think about 1.5 million people live there. It's just different, but it's ancient and it's fascinating. And they've got buildings that are 1,500 years old churches and what have you, and old buildings, and a marvelous story. At Andrew's conference at Playa del Carmen here in 2021, the president, Saakashvili, after the fall of the Soviet Union, came into Georgia and did his best to revive it. And I'll never forget, in the early teens of this decade, watching CNBC in the United States, my business channel, and I saw commercials for the Republic of Georgia. You should invest here. And I told Andrew, he says, yeah, I've been on it. It's a marvelous story about how, you can use free enterprise to come in and take a third world country, at the very least, to second world status. I mean, you got to do this in steps. There's a thing called the Heritage Foundation. I followed their Economic Freedom Index for, back to the 90s. And at that time, the United States was in the top 5. They're now 20th. The Republic of Georgia for the last 3 years has passed the United States as one of the freest countries economically in the world. What a marvelous story. It says something about the U.S. that we've gone from 3rd or 4th to 20th, but I think it says a lot more for a place like the Republic of Georgia that's come from nowhere to the top 15. We'll talk a little bit more about some of my observations on world travel in another episode next time. I'm so happy you stopped by. I'm Bob Henderson, the Nomad Dad for the Nomad Capitalist.
So people ask, Andrew, how do I get the most out of Nomad Capitalist? How do I begin my Nomad Capitalist journey? The first thing people do is they start right where you're at. They watch YouTube, they listen to podcasts, they read articles at nomadcapitalist.com. We've spent years creating thousands of pieces of free content so that you can get the vibe from someone who's actually done this, from someone who's actually been in your shoes. What they'll do next? They'll get a copy of the book. You can find it on Amazon. It costs a few bucks. And while it's not going to give you all the secrets, it's going to, again, give you more of the vibe. You're going to learn a lot of the things that I've learned. You're going to learn some strategies you can employ, and you're going to get a lot further in your journey. From there, if you are the 7 or 8 figure entrepreneur investor, you can go to nomadcapitalist.com. You can click Become a Client. We're pretty busy these days, but we have availability to help a limited number of people who want to create a holistic plan, something that I think is so important. So if you want to do that, go to nomadcapitalist.com, click Become a Client, learn more about how it works and how we can help you.